Hello and welcome to the preview show edition of the Blue Monday podcast, a 3 times weekly show looking into all things Ipswich Town. I'm your host, Richard Woodward, and I'm delighted to welcome back the brilliant Harry from Bath. Harry, how's it going?
Hello, Rich. All good here. Good to talk to you.
And
looking forward to Sheffield United this weekend. Is Joe right what he said about 20-1, the odds?
20-1 is our chances of winning according to some bookies, yeah.
God,
that is a game in the same league that we are in.
And this is and we're going to spend the next however so long previewing.
Yeah, we might want to temper people's expectations. That we usually try looking for weaknesses, don't we, to give people hope. I don't think this is going to be one of those shows, is it?
No. I looked up Man United. Remember we played them in the League Cup a few years ago.
The 4-0.
Yeah, the 4-0. Yeah. And I looked that one up, Malarchik's finest star. And it was, I think the odds for that were kind of 12s. I think 10, 12, 15. I think I spotted 115, but generally 10 to 12, a lot of 8-1s as well, but not 20-1. Dear God.
That is how low we've fallen.
Here be dragons, eh?
Yeah. Well, and let us quickly say that gamble responsibly and all that fun stuff.
Yes. Indeed.
But I would probably not put any. I think I saw Matt Macon say that means if I put £1 on that bet, I lose £1, and I think that's the way you need to think about this one. We've got plenty to talk about. We'll go through Sheffield United and how bloody brilliant they are. Shall we start by going back through Swansea and Preston, which was not a fun weekend. No. Started with the 4-0 defeat on Good Friday from Preston. We called out Callum Robinson, we called out Nemecha as well, and they got a brace each in each half. And then Swansea on Easter Monday, a little bit of a rally after a pretty disappointing defeat on Friday, but again, a fairly comfortable win for Swansea. Where do you want to start? What are your thoughts from those games?
Just a few one-liners, really, because I think the flagship show earlier in the week, you Joe and Dave covered it really brilliantly between the three of you. I think Preston, you have to factor in the fact that they'd lost 4 games in a row beforehand. Alex Neil had just signed a new contract, so we were walking into a bit of a firestorm there from the beginning, I felt.
And we'd just been relegated as well. I mean, love that in the mix, and
Yeah, but there was one thing, and we will talk about McGoldrick later, but that comment about the lack of expectation in the club, I was chatting to my good old Italian mate Vince, who we will have on here someday. You'll get to listen to him. He's very thoughtful about Ipswich, and Italians always think differently, as I always say. And I ran the 4-0 past him, and I also, for the first time, I hadn't mentioned McGoldrick's comment about the fact that they were different. There wasn't the urgency, there wasn't the sense of expectation. And when I mentioned that to him, it was like a curtain drop watching his face. His face absolutely fell, and he said, "Are you being too nice?" He says, "You can go." He says, Napoli fans. He's a Napoli supporter. He said, and you see it with Leeds, you see it with some other clubs. They have irrational expectations. They expect to win the European Cup every year. They expect the glorious future to be on their doorstep. He said there is a risk you can go the other way. So just to
there was quite a fefew questions on the flagship about that, and a few people. Stat is one of those, and tricky as well. A few people, particularly fans who've known us at that kind of top echelon, who are gutted. Mullet's another one of them who quite rightly thinks a club of Ipswich Town stature and history should not be playing in the third tier. It's an embarrassment that we've got there. The flip side of that equation is I think people don't want to channel that anger towards Lambert and the players, as you've talked about before. And the hope is that things will turn around. But if they don't, if we kind of keep talking about this October-November threshold for when the jury is kind of comes back on Lambert, if October-November is looking we're mid-table and not stringing together wins, I think it will turn then, because the other thing you add into the mix is a load of season ticket holders potentially who haven't had them before as well, who have got them with the expectation of, well, this might be a temporary visit and we'll score more goals and win more matches. It'll be great fun. When the reality kicks in, or if the reality kicks in, it's not as easy as people think. I think people will turn, but that kind of slow acceptance that we are where we are, and we shouldn't expect to beat anyone, as Vince has spotted. I think has been on the cards. Has been there for a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's a sobering moment. But that was that all came together with me, and obviously we'll talk about there were questions about how do championships teams do in League One, which we'll come on to shortly, I'm sure. But the other issue, two things again. We're using Mullet's great quote again, where he described Chalobah as a Rolls Royce with L plates. I do think for the Swansea goal, it was the L plates. I don't know what he was thinking. It was just he just had that. There was his brain just froze.
Brain fart.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yes, and also, and we'll talk about this when we come on to Sheffield United as well. I think the lack of width does scare me still in the team. That's whatever else, because it's so fundamental to so many of the link-ups across the field. If your wingers are communicating with your strikers, with your playmaker, with your midfielders, if you're getting overlapping full-backs, however you model the team, you have to have a wide attacking proposition. And I really don't see anything durable at the moment. We have bits of it. There's a really interesting question on Danny Rowe, and I looked him up actually. He's tearing it up in Lincoln apparently, but he's tearing it up as a forward, an inside forward. He seems to be a swap in. They take Matt Reed out and they bring Danny Rowe in. I could be wrong on that because I know
that's a different pairing, isn't it?
It is indeed. But he doesn't seem I just had a quick half hour on their forum just to get a sense of it, and my reading of it is that he's not being used he doesn't seem to be getting used as a wide man. I could be wrong on that, so shoot me down if I am. But going back to the width issue, that is a problem. And as for Dizelle, I am worried. He looks like a luxury player at the moment. But again, does he need the right partners? Does he need some steel and urgency in there to give him the space that he needs? Because if you're putting him in with a lightweight midfield up against streetwise championship opponents, it ain't going to happen. He will be a luxury player. Yeah. Just want to factor that into as well. I'm worried that people are suddenly, it's not that simple. Yeah.
And I wonder to what extent Judge going wherever he wants has encroached on Dizelle's territory on the pitch as well, because Judge, we called this out in the flagship as well. I saw Judge having Magilton moments on Monday, as in he dropped deep and demanded the ball off people, but whether that was his position or not when Lambert named the team is another debate. And Magilton was a sitter. Was that kind of deep line playmaker? Judge should be further up the pitch. Actually, probably should be out left, but he floats wherever he wants, and I wonder whether him coming in and calling for the ball off people is actually stopping Dizelle receiving the ball as much. Maybe, I don't know.
Good question. Good point. That could cause confusion, because there has to be some balance between flair and discipline with that. And if you want to give one player some flair, Judge would be the player to do it. But it has to be done in some sort of a coordinated way. I mean, good point.
If everything goes through Judge, then what's the point of a Dizelle? You might as well stick another sitter or another Scouse and Downs and Chalobah together and just ignore the midfield altogether.
Yeah. But equally, Rich, if Judge is really firing on all four cylinders and he's really causing problems, he's going to draw players to him, which in theory should then free Dizelle up. Because if Judge is just running around like a bit of Brownian motion from the old science lab, just scooting around the pitch, not really being effective, then they don't need to worry about him. They can kind of monitor him, but actually then they can keep an eye on everybody. But when you have a real problem player, then that can then distract that free, here's a really old example. Pele in the 1970 World Cup, when Jairzinho scored the goal against England, Pele had the ball. The English defenders were suddenly frozen by Pele. They were drawn to him, and he side-footed the ball at Jairzinho, bang, 1-0. It's that type of model that you get. If Judge is really tearing it up, that should be then freeing space up for others. And I'm not sure we haven't seen that yet.
The system isn't working for anyone, I don't think, at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's got a fierce test on Saturday tea time. I mean, as we've said at the start of the show, if you're looking for positives, or if you're looking for a hope, you're not going to find it this week. You might find it next week, given the brilliant Easter weekend that Sheffield United had, and the dire one that Leeds United have had, that has just swung that second, third battle totally on its head. Sheffield United, I remember the preview we did the game just before Christmas, and it's a team with energy, with creativity, with players that will just bomb forward, with width, as you've talked about, and as we kind of discussed before we came on, they've got options, haven't they? They've got quality throughout. They've strengthened really well in January with some loan signings, but they've got goals in different guises as well. They've got goals from midfield, but they've got 4 or 5 strikers who you can plug and play with as well. One of them gets injured, another one comes in, and it's been a great weekend for McGoldrick. That Hull game, the 3-0 win against Hull, which cemented their place in second place. McGoldrick was front and centre, and I'm sure you are going to regale us with some lovely feedback that McGoldrick is gathering from Sheffield United fans, which will make us even more gutted that we let him go for nothing.
You know that wound with all the salt in it that every Ipswich Town fan seems to have at the moment. Well, we've just got another consignment of salt just been delivered on this show. We'll come back to that later. It's
the only way that it could be worse is if maybe Mick McCarthy came out and said how brilliantly David McGoldrick was doing and how he hoped, if only that had happened for us in Ipswich or something like that. That's the only way to.
I'm glad Mick doesn't harbour grudges.
Twist the knife or whatever. Where should we start with Sheffield United? I think we usually go through the whole team, but I think we can probably pick off the key players. But I guess I'd quite like to start with a bit on Chris Wilder, if I may. Because I think for a while he's been underestimated by the wider football community because he's a tracksuit manager and potentially some of the history with Sheffield United and missing out last season, having had a really good run, maybe he's only got one plan A, but actually the popular opinion now is that Wilder is vastly outperforming and is a really solid manager that has probably a really big future. It's just because he's perhaps, as I say, the tracksuit manager, or perhaps at maybe an unfashionable club in Sheffield United, he maybe isn't getting the plaudits that maybe Farker is or Bielsa is. But Wilder is up there, isn't he? He probably is a good bet for manager of the season, I would suggest.
You would put him right up there. Is there a George Burley parallel?
It's an interesting thought, that.
Because, one of them said Wilder isn't just a manager, he's a blade. He really identifies with the club. And they were meandering around in League One since 2011, I think. And he took them over and May 16, they were blundering around for 5-6 years. And then he kind of galvanised them and brought them through.
It's a good fit, isn't it?
Yeah, it is actually. They adore him. There is that thing of, I've always believed that if you don't have a lot of money, you have to get teams playing to a very specific model, because then they will all overperform if you get that model really working well. You saw it with Ian Holloway with his 4-3-3. Allardyce did it with a different style of play. Whatever the style of play is, you have to have it good and working well. So therefore, these imperfect players will play above themselves. And this is a classic example. I'm not sure he has a plan B, but he has a plan A, which he does really, really well, and just do plan A better. One interesting thing, let's blast into the style of play. It's 3-5-2, three centre backs, 3-4-1-2, two sitting in the midfield, wing backs and a playmaker in behind two strikers. There's a subtle change in emphasis in the way they've played it. The normal 3-5-2 earlier in the season, when they fly at a team, where they overload the wings is the centre backs will hammer up the field. Contrast that with Brentford, who play 3-4-3, where the three centre-backs remain static. The two wide players, the two wing-backs hammer up the field and link with the wide strikers breaking out. That's where they get their wide overload. Whereas, as I say, Sheffield United, you get the centre-backs racing up the field, and you can then create, and if you get a midfielder dropping out wide as well, you can suddenly have 3 men out against a full-back. Yeah. And for teams who don't have a lot of width, or who have been struggling to find width, and I'm terrified about this, this is a problem. It really is. And if Enda Stevens doesn't get you going down one side, the right wing back is going to do it on the other side. So you can't, you really can't win. You've got George Baldock or Kieran Freeman. Both of them can do it on the other side as wing backs. Now, Wilder, I mention it because Wilder has been making a subtle shift in emphasis as the second half of the campaign has gone in. Earlier in the season, you had both full centre-backs hammering forward and leaving John Egan sitting at the back. As the season has progressed, there has only been, a lot of them have talked about the fact that only one will break forward now. So it's more measured in their attacking play. They said, what was the phrase? They said, we're being slightly more cautious. Earlier in the season, we were far more fluid, more dangerous going forward, but with a softer underbelly. The team has felt sturdier recently, less effective or attractive going forward, but a good deal better at grinding out results.
Well, a couple of clean sheets over Easter as well, isn't it? As well.
Yeah, exactly. So there is balance. There is balance there. He's managed to find a way of operating the system, but he's able to say, right, we can have the oven at 220 degrees, or we can have the oven at 160, depending on depending on how we want to regulate it. Yeah. Which is fascinating. It really is.
And the worry is that they'll just go for it for us, won't they?
Oh God, yes, as everybody seems to think that they can do. It's really interesting. Quickly as well. It is worth mentioning, and this again goes back to our playoff season. I'm just dragging up all these grim parallels. I'm so sorry. The 3 players they brought in January were telling. All loan signings. Kieran Dowell, the playmaker from Everton, to act as an alternative to Mark Duffy, and then strikers Gary Medine and Scott Hogan. Medine from Cardiff, Hogan from Villa, where they were kind of peripheral to what was going on. I remember Villa fans were hammering Hogan. They really didn't rate him at all, but he seems to have found a really good. Wilder has got a great role out of him at Sheffield United. It's
but those are top echelon. Those are probably players that you would expect in a top 3 championship team, wouldn't you? I mean, they are good standard players that probably can make the step up as well. Maybe Medine's probably a little bit, maybe probably in that kind of championship striker bracket of too good for the championship, enough for the Premier. Yeah, exactly right. But Dowell, I think, is going to be a big player for someone.
Yeah, he will. No, he will definitely. That they can see that in him. And again, they all offer something different to each other. We won't dwell on the team because we pretty much know what they're going to be, and I think we've covered it before. I think most people know them. We won't ignore any of them, but we'll blast our way through the squad. But it is, as I say, high intensity pressing, playing on the front foot. I think whereas Brentford might be kind of one dial more technical, I think Sheffield United have more of an urgency about them, the way they play. I think it is more. It's a little bit. It's one notch more British, if I can describe it as that. They will get stuck in if they need to. They have that. They've got that within them, even though they're not necessarily huge as a squad. Yeah. Okay.
Should we start at the back and pick people out as we go through?
Let's blast our way through. Some we'll just give one-liners to, just so you're aware of them. Quickly on Dean Henderson, the goalkeeper, on loan last season at Shrewsbury with Paul Hurst, and on loan this season from he was on loan at Shrewsbury from parent club Manchester United. Just get that clear. Confident keeper, struggled earlier in the season with his crossing. That has come on. And as he's got more confident with the back line, they've got a fairly solid. It's that thing of. You've got 3 centre backs and a keeper who all know each other's games now. So you've got Covalent bonds again are very strong there. They all know what they're all doing. Some making saves that some of them are unreal. There is one witty moment. He does have a bit of a sense of humour, and he's a bit of a heart on the sleeve keeper. There was one. Who was the Wigan player that they sold and he took a shot? Was it at the DW Stadium?
Lee Evans? No.
Lee Evans, it was. I think it was. He took a shot which sailed about 10 feet over the bar, nowhere near the goal. And Dean Henderson throws himself heroically across the goal and collapses in a heap on the ground. And they described him as he's proper Hollywood, but he's class. He's all goalkeepers, they say, are a bit mad. I think he's got that. Yeah. Centre back at the heart, the one player who doesn't bomb up the field is John Egan. Mm-hmm. And we remember him before. We talked about him scoring 2 goals against us for Brentford a couple of years ago when we didn't put anyone under Mick on one of the. I think it was on the back post from set pieces.
Corners or something.
Yeah, were corner kicks. Yeah. I still think Berra was at fault, but what do I know? Usual thing. Absolute rock, brick wall. He's broken into the Ireland team. He's been in and out of that. Like, you could see Mick actually. Yeah, I could see that working. Mm-hmm. He's trusted. Not only a warrior, but he's actually he has got a good long pass on him. But I think he operates under instructions not to. You have enough footballing defenders in that back line. You don't need to do it. Let the others get on with it. No headlines with him. He performs every week, and one of these really consistent defenders that they like. On his left side, they've got Jack O'Connell, and one of them said he is it sums up the uniqueness of the format system they use. One blade said he's just about the only overlapping left-footed centre back in world football. Think that one through. And they love him. Without him, we're less effective. They lack a direct replacement. Although Enda Stevens can drop in and play that role, actually, as he did recently. But he's very good in the air, but he hasn't done much in the air with set pieces this season. Last year, he seemed to be more effective attacking-wise. He's not a problem, but there isn't a problem with him heading the ball, but they think he could be a bit more clinical. So, and on the other side, probably looking at Chris Basham.
Okay, not Martin Craney.
Possibly.
I've got my Coventry Coventry.
No, it's in bold. I have it in the list here. It's in my little CV game here. I love that new CV game, by
That's
the way.
good,
If anyone
yeah.
did miss it, it's a really good. It's kind of like CV. It's like a
auction, isn't it?
It is like auction, or it's like a bridge game. It's a contract bridge. How high, higher or lower kind of thing. Really, really good. Listen out for it. It's But Basham, getting back to him, he is work your socks off, never stop running through walls, make the most of what you have. They love his energy. His forward runs are admirable as he charges through the opposition. His overlapping causes havoc. Yeah, he's perfect for their system, as I say. In a technical back three, you wouldn't put him in there, but for a team where they love marauding, which is the best word to use. You've got a marauder, custom-built marauder.
Did he come through from Oxford with Wilder? I seem to remember him being Oxford, but maybe I'm wrong.
I've got him as Bolton and Blackpool. That's his background. No, there is John Lundstrom. The midfielder is ex-Oxford.
Okay.
I wonder if that's what you mean. But But anyway, Basham, as I say, they did say he attempted a 2-yard pass to Norwood and completely mishit it. But he's the heart of a line, but he does give the ball away cheaply. But that's what you live with. Martin Craney can cover on the right, but he can also cover at wing back as well. He is ex-Coventry, Mr. Dependable. He comes in for Basham. I think in a different style of football, you would put Craney in because he is a more technical player. He's good at reading the game. He's good at intercepting through balls. But he's better than Basham. They think he's better than Basham defensively. He makes less errors, and he goes forward with a calmer confidence. Whereas Basham, as I say, he just he's kind of like an Anglo-Saxon or a Viking warrior.
With his 12 bookings as well.
Yeah,
so he's,
Quick nod to a player I've always rated, and I'm sorry he didn't stay with us longer, which is Richard Stearman.
Oh yeah,
who, believe it or not, is the bench option there, which is quite shocking. He's really good.
But he's a centre back. He can play centre back or right back.
Right back, yeah.
And that suggests he could maraud as well if he needed to.
Yeah, if he wanted to. He tends to. He's been keeping it more simple, to be fair. They really trust him. He came in, I think, when Egan was suspended. He made a heroic Luis Suarez type handball save against Millwall late on in the game and picked up a red card for it. It was right at the end. Millwall then did actually go on and equalise even more frustratingly, but Stearman came in for him. I found this lovely phrase about him. If Stearman saw you'd broken down on the motorway, he'd pull over, risk his life pushing you onto the hard shoulder. He would then alert the highways authority and recommend you a competitively priced and reliable local breakdown mechanic. They think he's an absolute professional, and I remember him. He came in and did. I could see why Mick utterly trusted him when he was here.
Yeah, it was just a shame he was on a bit too much money at Wolves. I don't think.
Yeah, he would have been.
I don't think we could afford him.
But that's their plan B there. Believe it or not. Let's look at the wide. Let's blast through the wing backs because they actually work so closely with the centre backs. That's worth talking about. The big name to talk about is Enda Stevens. We saw him play for Portsmouth against us in the FA Cup a few years ago, and he has blossomed. Shamrock Rovers, Villa, Portsmouth into the Ireland team as well. I think he's grown in athleticism the way they're describing him. He seems to be more physical. He seems to be. They talk about him being a machine, reading danger but bombing forward, and he's adding goals and quality to his game. It's a toss-up with a lot of them. Apart from the sentimental vote for Billy Sharp as player of the season, Stevens and McGoldrick are the other two names that are regularly coming up. He scored a goal in the 3-0 win against Hull, but he didn't just score the goal. He caused chaos down that left side. They just couldn't deal with him at all. He's turned into some player. He's grown. He's more assured. He's more confident. I think he's, again, as the team has grown, as they've this sort of playing with each other for years. So, So he will play, and he is a problem. He can, as I say, drop into the back line as well if O'Connell is injured. And on the right side, you've got George Baldock. I think he will probably play ahead of Freeman. He's a more energetic player. He's got good pace. He's got an engine, can hammer up and down the field. Issue is with him in the final third. That's come up before. His attacking positional sense and delivery could improve, whereas Stevens seems to have clicked that. Baldock hasn't quite. The alternative being Kieran Freeman, ex-Forest and Derby player, and he's a very good attacking outlet on the right, but they feel he's a bit weak at the back. So he's a form player, and he was brilliant with them. He was when they got promoted a few seasons ago, but he seems to have plateaued and Baldock has overtaken them. So I reckon you're looking at Baldock on the right with Basham and Stevens and O'Connell on the left. They'll be coming up and saying hello to whatever fullbacks have the pleasure of playing against them.
Man.
Yeah. So centre midfield.
The Coventry central midfield.
The Coventry central midfield. Okay. Who do you want to lead off with then? Any names grab your interest?
Well, Ollie Norwood has had a brilliant season. We've talked about him before. He's still got a little bit of an edge to him. Every now and then he'll kind of he'll get a sly tackling, or has he been sent off this season? No, he hasn't. He's got 11 yellow cards though. But it's just quarterbacking this team really well. And then John Fleck, who I generally see is more of an advanced player. He certainly was at Coventry. He used to score goals. He was in kind of the number 10 position. But how does that configuration kind of work? Are they alongside each other, or are they?
They are. Well, I think they are more. Norwood tends to be the more of the sitter. Fleck, I mean, you described him perfectly. Norwood as the quarterback. I'd say Fleck would be the running back. And in that sense, the two of them work well together. Norwood, they said they could watch him striking passes all day. His vision and long range
passes are brilliant. Lovely finesse. He's got Dave Diamond would say he makes lovely shapes. With his, he can.
Exactly that. It's geometry. Exactly that. There is a small chink of kryptonite. We'll take it. We'll take it. It may not do us any good, but we'll have it. There is a way to. Millwall stood a man on them. They before the Easter weekend, which was glorious. They had this awful 1-1 draw against Millwall, where Millwall came desperate for a point. They battled. They frustrated them. They stopped them playing, and they got a late equaliser from, I think it was Jay Cooper, scored in stoppage time. And they frustrated Sheffield United. One of the things they did was they stood a man on Norwood all game. That forces him deep, and when you force him deep in between the centre halves, he is way less effective. You can spray passes from the edge of the centre, from the back of your centre circle, but when you're on the D of your own penalty area, you're not. It's the 10 yards back and 10 yards forward thing. So they have stopped him, and this is a few other teams. They said, I think Sheffield Wednesday did that. Earlier in the season as well.
Is that the 0-0 draw at the start of the season?
It was. It negates his influence. It's to negate his influence. That's the idea with it. And it also, it stops. You beat me. That's what I thought of that one. No, I haven't written that down. But that was.
That's what I was thinking. You were saying it.
That was exactly what I was thinking. The other thing that by doing that is it also slows their tempo down, because Norwood can add that urgency to them. But so as I say, but Norwood he's the deep line playmaker within the team. Fleck, as we say, is more about industry. Again, this is this balance thing again within midfield. He was back to his best against Hull. He's had an up and downish kind of season, they were saying, but bursting into the box, running forward. And of course, it's that thing when you run forward with the ball, you draw players to you, which creates space where those players were. So you're automatically then starting to open them up, and particularly when you've got the wide boys hammering up the flanks as well. You can see the problem. Fleck, they say, rock solid, hard as nails. You remember this when you're watching him at Coventry. He may have had a quiet season, but he has been ever present pretty much. They say about him his best work is when they don't have his possession. His positioning is really, really strong, but he totally dictated the whole game. They seem to just get inside Hull. I don't know if they switched off or not, but
on the beach maybe.
Yeah, possibly that. But it will be those two. The couple of quick plan Bs. I don't think we're going to see them. John Lundstrom, he was a very good player when they were going up, but I think they've now outgrown him. He's ex-Oxford United.
He's very defensive minded as well. Yeah, he's physical, but I don't think he's going to give you a huge amount of threat going forwards.
Yeah, I'd be amazed if we see him. He's a tough nut who'll slow opponents down in the middle of the
field.
I
would take him in League One. He would be the kind of player that we need, I think.
He's your gnarly midfielder, totally in League One. I'd have him. He would be brilliant with, as I say, that would free up players like Dazelle, Bishop, whatever, to go and do their thing. Or him and Downs in the big game. The two together would be they would give that back line, which may need more protecting than we realise. But they say a cameo hero there when the game is won. That's how I describe Lundstrom. And the other player, and this is a really sad one, is Paul Coots. And this is really, really tragic. Coots was a really stylish. Yes, Preston Derby, he came through, and he broke his leg in a game against Burton in November 17. I remember this I think it was when their first season up, and they go a man down when he comes on now because he can't move freely. Technically, he's fine, but he can't get around the pitch. He's lost his mobility. They've talked about a few shying out of 50-50s occasionally as well. And they threw him on against Millwall, and one of them said Millwall would have been perfect for Lundstrom to go on against. You go playing Millwall, you're defending a 1-0 lead, send Lundstrom on, and he'll kick the Millwall players as much as they'll kick him. But no, they put Coots on, and Coots was they said he did nothing. But Lundstrom and Coots, they're the plan Bs. But looking at the other end of the field and at the more playmaking end, you've got Mark Duffy and Kieran Dowell.
And what these guys, it's the one behind the two strikers.
It's the one behind the two strikers here. Yeah, these are the kind of the link players. Well, Duffy first, because I think Duffy's the man in possession, but I think Dowell arriving on loan from Everton in January seems to have upped Duffy's game a little bit, I think, too. They think Duffy is the one. He's more likely to create in the final third. When Duffy plays well, we play well. Without him, the gap in midfield gets too big and the strikers can get isolated because Dowell can drop a bit deeper, and that can cause a problem. That can unbalance the midfield. They prefer Duffy. He manages to hold play around the opposition 18-yard box and pull defences inside out. But he's a more technical player. I think Dowell has more energy and industry about him. But Duffy will slow the game down a little bit. They describe him sometimes as being ponderous and slow and losing possession. But he can glide past players with ease, but they also describe him a bit like McGoldrick as somebody who won't let this chance slip through his fingers. He's 33 now. He's played for Southport, Morecambe, Scunthorpe, Doncaster.
Oh, wow.
He's been a lower league journeyman. Here's an opportunity to get, this is...
the moment
towards
in
the end
sun.
of his career,
Yeah.
the moment in the sun. Whereas Kieran Dowell is he's about 12 years younger than him. And Dowell, he played on loan for Forest last year.
Yeah, lovely left foot, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I think yes, that's right. But he was criminally underused by Karanka. That's what they were saying about him. Now, the contrast with him is that Dowell will travel more with the ball. He's pacier. He's more direct. Whereas, as I say, Duffy is more kind of interesting threaded passes. Yeah. Exactly that, yeah. Dowell, he does look after the ball, but he runs all day, and they think he's going to be Duffy's successor if they do go up. So whereas at the moment it's Duffy with Dowell as a bench option. If they get promoted, let's talk to Everton, see if they could sign him in a successful team, and then Dowell plays and Duffy is the bench option, as it were.
And that's the thing with these loan signings, that all three of them, arguably, if they got promoted, they can make permanent. Even if they were to finish in the playoffs and maybe not go up, you could still possibly get Hogan and or Medine as well. Yeah. Dowell might come for another season as well, or Everton might. It's planning ahead as well, as much as giving yourself a bit of a lift to get towards the playoffs, which is what we didn't do. We kind of, in 14-15, we kind of bolstered the squad, didn't we, rather than supplement our starting 11. But each of these players could go straight into that team, and Dowell is certainly one of those.
There is a strategic side to it. There was a lovely line which was used about Wilder. We remember, Ben and I, we took Sheffield United are one of the progressives. We talked about the 5 progressives in the league, the teams who are progressing slowly and incrementally every year, but progressing most years. And he said, and you just said it, the constant evolution we have seen under Wilder will continue, and X number of players will sign this summer. So you just say constant evolution, and that's the thinking of those players coming in echoes that constant evolution. Yeah,
I think if I want this to be true, but if Sheffield United finish second or go up through the playoffs, I seem to think they'll have a better strategy for survival than Norwich will. I'm reading today that Norwich are going to cap their spending in the Premier League to 20 million. But I think Norwich's defence needs some serious upgrades, and I think probably they need to give Pookie some help as well. I think Sheffield United's squad actually is a little bit more stable and can be evolved a lot easier than maybe Norwich's. But as I say, maybe that's wishful thinking on my part. But
no, there is logic in that. I mean, again, the thing is, the teams who do go up generally with that coherent model of play that is well established. I mean, they've been playing this type of football now for 3-4 years.
And it feels like a similar situation to us going up. They might go up automatically, but.
Yeah, Burnley's a good benchmark for it. If they can do it, and Burnley once they got the European games out of the way this season, they had a typical season, and they just pushed away from danger. So it is entirely possible. It really is. Yeah. That's what I say. That's Dowell. I think we've covered him. Yeah, we've covered it. Yeah, I think he's Dowell, more urgency, a little bit more tempo, I think, than Duffy. But my guess is they'll start with Duffy and probably bring on Dowell. Who knows? But anyway, yeah. Sorry, Rich.
I was going to list out the strikers because we need to talk about the strikers. So Billy Sharp, everyone knows about Billy Sharp, has been injured, might come back on Saturday, which is perfect timing, like Callum Robinson coming into form. Scott Hogan, Gary Medine, David McGoldrick. Am I right in thinking that Connor Washington is there as well, or is he out on loan?
No, he was a free loan signing, a free transfer signing. He cancelled his contract with Queen's Park Rangers in August, joined them. Bit of a fringe player, bit of a plan B. Because he really is a winger. I think I never see him as a striker, and they don't have wingers the way they play, and he's not defensive enough to come off the back. I think one substitute appearance in the last 8 games he had. He came on. I think he came on against Hull actually. But it was very much they were 3-0 up.
Cameo.
That kind of just sort of I'm still here. He was very nearly a who are they now kind of player. I don't think they've any who are they. Actually, that's the other thing. No, who are they? Marvin Johnson is probably the one who isn't a regular in the team now. But otherwise, there's no wastage. There's no wastage. I
had a quick scroll through myself. Everyone knows about Billy Sharp. He scored the goal at Portman Road back in December. 24 goals. Is he captain when he plays as well? I mean, he's well loved there as well. He'll be player of the season, won't he?
Adored.
But should we focus on? Well, we'll end with McGoldrick. We'll end on a miserable night.
End on a high. Yeah,
do you want to talk to us about Hogan and Medine?
Yeah. Let's walk through them all. A quick one on Washington as well. First of all, let's look at each of them, because they all do something different, and it is worth just listing out what they all do to give you an idea of the variety and the balance of attacking options they have. Remember, you've got these guys hammering down the flanks. You've got some fairly creative players in midfield, whether it's Fleck running forward, Norwood deeper, or Dowell or Duffy, however they played to configure them in the middle. On top of that, then you've got McGoldrick with his movement and ability to read the game. You've got Billy Sharp, who is so intelligent, his predatory penalty area play, and they described him as being adaptable. You've got Medine's aerial strength and ability to lead the line, and he can come off the bench, which is what they think they should use him for. You've got Scott Hogan, who I would describe as kind of a pacey, off the shoulder, kind of a Freddie Sears type, but only
a little bit more
more to him. And then Connor Washington, who can offer pace and get in behind defenders. So if you've got a team playing a high line, if all else fails, you can throw Washington on for pure pace, if nothing else. So that is, and not a lot of money spent. A few loan signings. McGoldrick cost them nothing. Sharp is come up with them from League One. Yeah. Washington was a cancelled contract. That is intelligent transfer business.
Are there pairings that Wilder likes? I assume Sharp McGoldrick has been the standard pairing for most of the season, but
that's the big one. The one who is slightly ill-fitting is Medine, and I'm not quite sure.
That would be the one that you'd pick out, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Quickly, let's just touch on Washington, because just to mention him, as I say, if teams sit in deep, he's not really your man. He's better off if teams play a high line. We shan't be playing a high line. I think we're going to be playing either a deep line or a very deep line, but you never know. And he has in a way been superseded by Hogan, because Hogan has got more of an attacking dimension to him. Medine is... there are issues with him. They describe him as a great option that centre halves would dread seeing with time running down. He wins balls with headers and chest controls if they're looking to keep possession, but they don't think he's actually good as a starter. They see him causing problems, or they said if we're getting desperate. There is also, we've talked about this before, Medine, there is an amber light with him on the discipline front. Okay. He got sent off against Brentford earlier in the season. It was the spring, for 2 unnecessary fouls. He does have this in him, and I remember when we played Bolton last year, I think it was, under Mick in the spring, or the autumn, I should say. I noticed a few of our players, Chambers, a few of them were just they were trying to wind him up. It was a little bit like Sam Morsey at Wigan. Okay, let's push a few buttons here. Lee Martin when we had him, this kind of thing, and I think he can be needled, let's just say. So, but the other issue with Medine, which you get often with the big line leaders, is that there is a habit of going long to him.
Yes.
Which it's which
isn't a fit for this team, apart from maybe Norwood, maybe pumping those long balls if it needs.
But again, if you're under pressure, if you're under the cosh, that just might be the outball you need.
Deep crosses, maybe. I don't know.
No, they say deep crosses, exactly, not 45-degree crosses. They said that they're no use. But if you get deep, the other thing is you have to have players running around him. It's the classic target man. Hogan, who was heavily criticised at Villa, he's actually found a team that fits his style of play. Needs balls played to him through the channel. We've not had a player up top with pace like his for so long. And some fans are saying, well, what's he actually done since arriving? I think the rest of the team have had to get used to a style of play, because you would have thought someone like Duffy or Norwood or even Fleck pushing forward would be able to thread the balls in that he needs. Even if the wide boys are just putting crosses in, you'd have thought the midfield could offer him a fairly good source of supply. They say that they do lump the ball up the field less when he's on the field, so therefore he suits their style of play a lot better. But he's not there to win headers.
No.
He's another Freddie, as I say. He'll play off the shoulder, waiting for the pass through. And if the more times we pick that pass, the more goals we will score. That's how they say it. But it tends their style of play often they say is we go up through the middle, then we go out wide, and then we come back in again. So that might be how they need to alter things. On the Billy Sharp front, much loved. Without Billy, we have such limited options. He's so adaptable. Fox in the box type strikers are pretty much gone in the game, yet most teams would like this one. They said he can read what the other striker does so well. He's smart. He's
quite unselfish, isn't he? I mean, he'll get on the end of something, as we saw in December. But actually, I think he's quite I'm looking for a better word than generous, but you know what I mean? I think that's what you're saying.
No, he's unselfish, he is.
He tries to bring out the best in his partner, doesn't he?
They said even when a move breaks down that you see he's managed to get the wrong side of the defence. They can see that he has spotted the chink. And you can see that's how him and McGoldrick would click so well, because McGoldrick has that same, you've got two football brains that have connected as much as anything there. Yeah, it's brilliant.
And 24 goals to go with it. Shall we end with McGoldrick then, Harry?
Yeah,
make us all upset.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry, everybody. I'm really, really sorry. Okay.
Can I just quickly, how many appearances he made? Let me just get that number out.
I think is he on 15 goals this season? I haven't checked his appearances, but he's been a regular. I mean, he has
34 starts, 9 sub appearances, and 15 goals.
Yeah. And don't ever listen to us. I said at the start of the season he was confidently going to get injured in March, and never happened.
He runs out of steam in Easter.
So there we go.
Lovely goal against Hull.
It was. He scored two. There was one cut inside. And he just perfect, which we know he's capable of.
Also ex-Coventry, #, sorry.
Indeed, yes, indeed. Yes, 2012.
Sorry, Harry, it's getting boring. You're not going to like the League One players that I've called out as well that we were talking about last week, but brazen. But
the Coventry squad. Okay, it's good. Let's get this over with, because that's what it feels like. I'm going to read out. I've got 3 times this volume of material. Let's just say it is. They adore this guy. McGoldrick is just playing out of his skin. Everything he touches turns to gold. What a player. He's technically supreme. He's playing in his own space at the moment, and teams cannot live with him. I want him to score the goal that takes us up. He has been our best player this season by miles. Then you get what a bit of business. That's the worst one. And then just to carry on, one of our best signings ever, especially when you consider the cost and the effect he's had. I'm amazed at his fitness. I've always liked him, but couldn't imagine he'd stay fit all season and end up playing near 40-ish games for us. I'm not sure what happened at Ipswich, because he never seemed fit for them. It's just the gods are mocking us. They really are. He's not just a goal scorer. He links midfield in the attack. He drops deep, controlling the ball, making good passes. He's almost more like an attacking midfielder, and he works so hard. It's hard to believe he's over 30 and had such a poor injury record before joining us. The player of the season, taking everything into account, has to be McGoldrick. I think what the big thing is, he has come good at the right time. Yeah. And they also talk about the fact that he has a real hunger. And to be fair, I mean, leaving our kind of woundedness aside for a minute, you wouldn't deny him this, because he missed his opportunity when he was linked with Leicester a few years ago. There was that link, and the one time we turned down a move to lose, and when we could have lost him. So if he does get his chance, and he has battled with injuries, and I remember I saw him at the Luton game in the League Cup was it last year? It's like 2 years ago now, and he was coming back it was when Waghorn made his debut, and Didsey came on, and he was the one who was the architect of the win with the 2 goals, and I remember giving him a thumbs up as he went off the field, and one of those moments where the fourth wall is broken, I got a thumbs up back, and I could see what it meant to him because of where he had been on the road back from all the injuries and setbacks that he had. So in that sense, a bit like Duffy. If he gets his opportunity in the top flight, well, go for it, boy, go for it, and we wouldn't begrudge it.
And again, if you're one of those kind of people that likes to part with their money to the bookies, then I would probably stick a money on McGoldrick to score at any time. If they get a penalty, not that he's great at penalties, that's probably one bit where he could do better. He'll score, won't he? I'm pretty certain he'll score. But is there any kind of insights apart from remarking on how he's managed to stay fit for so long? And I don't think anyone dismissed him as a quality footballer with a excellent footballing brain. It was the kind of the injuries did hold him back. But if they remarked, I guess perhaps it's us. We need to look at ourselves. What were we making him do aside from the commute, which I think is a sizable contributing factor to him?
They did talk about that.
But it can't just be that. It can't be. And I just wonder whether training methods or our style of play. I mean, he's an attacking player in an attacking team. It is built to support his game, isn't it? Whereas for us, we weren't an attacking team, and he was the one player that was dragging us up the pitch. That was maybe a really heavy burden for one player, perhaps. I don't know, but man, there are some lessons that we need to learn after this last couple of years, isn't there?
Yeah, there are. I do think you've put your. I think just listening to you running through all the different kind of options in terms of what's driven the change. I think the style of play, it's almost an inversion of the Dizelle question we talked about at the beginning of the show, where Dizelle needs players around him to stop him being a luxury player. When McGoldrick has all of this attacking wealth sitting all around him, he just says, okay, well, it frees him up then to, strut his stuff basically, because everything else around him, you've got the playmakers, you've got the passers, you've got the runners, you've got the overloaded flanks. So, Didsy, go on and do your stuff, because we've taken care of everything else for you. Yeah. Whereas possibly we weren't taken care of enough. We were just relying on him and Murph, for that one season and that season particularly when he first came across, and he played a key part in us staying up that year with Mick. I think the model of play has allowed him to blossom as well. I really think so.
Well, we can't begrudge him, as you say, a promotion and hopefully a shot at the Premier League as well.
Yeah, it'd be fun to watch him.
Great stuff, Harry. Well, I'm feeling all the more confident that we're going to get battered 4-0. Yeah.
I don't know. It may not be. Bear in mind too, though. I mean, there is this. For them, there's a lot on this game. They're 3 points clear. A win here and they're up. It's a plus 11 goal difference or plus 10.5, whatever it is. And there is this worry that they're thinking, they have screwed up on these things before. There is the possibility of the pressure getting to them, but they're also, I think, with the 2 wins at Easter, they think actually Leeds have now become the chokers, and for them, they've now just been. It's a bit like in badminton where when it's your serve, you can score points. They feel as if they've now got the shuttlecock kind of thing. It's that type of thing. Yeah. But So
when you want to secure your second place, maybe even even better, maybe challenge Norwich on the last day for the title. That would be fantastic, wouldn't it?
That would be fun.
Along comes Ipswich. I can confirm that Benjamin Bloom has endorsed the lineup. He's given me basically exactly what you said there. Ben's seen him a load of times this season, and so he was saying Basham fitness is the question mark over him and Craney. And obviously Billy Sharp coming back in. Ben also adds an interesting point here about learning from the transition from Championship to League One, about resetting the spending and not having to compete with teams spending 88 million in one window. That's something we talked about in terms of evolution, but they will need to if they want to continue playing this way, they will need to supplement the quality, won't they?
They will, yeah. But you get the sense the way Wilder has set it up, the foundations in that club are so strong. That they could do. Remember Charlton way back under Kerbishley or West Brom, and then Burnley, with the teams who yo-yoed for a couple of seasons. You get a sense when Burnley yo-yoed under Dyche, they went straight back up again. And my sense with Sheffield United is they're not going to bank the cash. They will spend judiciously, but it'll be done in a controlled way, and they won't. Agreed. That doesn't look like it. Is that the type of team that if it went up and came straight back down, that other Premier teams are going to come in and start raiding? I'm not so sure it
No,
is.
agreed. And maybe it needs to be a bit of a West Brom kind of situation from the Mowbray area where you maybe take the relegation because you've got 200 million quid in the bank or whatever, and rebuild, and then you smash the Championship up and then go up.
Yeah, because you've done it once and you've got the quality there. Just make sure, just be professional about it, or like Newcastle did under Benitez, just control signings, just to give that bit of daylight or quality ahead of everybody else. Yeah.
Let's do a couple of bits before we move away from Sheffield United. I'll just point out the shirts behind me. Two famous 3-2 victories over Sheffield United.
Yes.
One from 92-93, is it? 92-93 in the snow. Stuart Slater, which I think I was at that game when the snow, the pitch got more and more white as the game went on. And the famous 3-2 win from 2002-3, I think it is, 10 years later perhaps. No, 93-94, 2002-3, the Dale Roberts, Darren Bent, Darren Ambrose, Pablo Canago was sent off, 3-2 win. So that is the shirts behind me. Let's do Daryl's combined 11. A name that has been discussed at least in the last two shows that I've been on, the preview show and the flagship show. Richard Wright is in goal for us. David Barnes is not a name that I know. Is that ringing any bells for you?
It doesn't. He was a bit peripheral. I think he played for us 92 and 94, and he was with Sheffield United. I think I have him down. He's late 80s, early 90s. He's not. I don't think he's one that lingers long in the memory. But it's one of these formations. It's the other. I would have actually possibly the other alternative was Les Tibbett.
Well, I'm looking at this and thinking, well, Jay McEvely could play there as well. Danny Higginbotham can play there as well. I'll have to admit, I should have mentioned this at the start. I've been in Glasgow all day today, and this is the first time I've seen Daryl's team. I probably would have done a bit of artistic license on some of these. Daryl, no offence. David Unsworth could play left back as well.
Actually, he could, And actually that would work because the other you've got Brian Gale, and you've also got Cameron Carter-Vickers. Yeah.
Oh, you're not going George Santos.
Of course,
for the Battle of West Brom.
For the Battle of West Brom, absolutely. Yeah. No, probably okay. Let's put Santos in. Yeah, let's put Santos in.
Or Manu Theti as well from the. Then we've got a three-man midfield.
Hang on, right back. We've got
right back.
We've got the ever-present wing threat for the North Stand of Gus Ulenbeek.
And he's got Stearman on the bench, who we talked about as well. I think Gus Ulenbeek for comedy value, I think.
Yeah, that's true. True. Yeah, no, you'd probably put Stearman on, wouldn't you, actually, over Gus? Yeah, you would. Yeah, because he did a good job for us, right? Because he was right back, really, for us. Because there was Carlos Edwards as well, wasn't there? And there was Chambo and Tommy. So it was Stearman usually on he was generally played at right back just thinking back about that team. Okay, okie doke.
Midfield, we've not got a huge amount of options, have we?
No, we don't.
It's quite balanced.
In a slightly interesting way, yeah.
Well, Quinn can play left.
Alan Quinn left back, left midfield,
who I kept calling Alan Judge, Alan Quinn on the flagship show. Simon Walton, Luminell, red card, walking red card, Simon Walton.
Literally. And beside him, appropriately, another walking red card.
Lee Martin.
We'll have a one-man midfield.
Especially if you play George Santos or Manu Theti as centre-back as well.
If you're the opposition manager, you just look at your squad and say, right, who are the wind-up merchants in the team that we can
I'm just thinking match abandoned, Harry.
You were not interested in their football ability. You just send players out who could just needle the opposition. You don't have to be any good on the ball. Just
wind him up. Grab the shirts. Give him a kick.
Anything you can do. Yeah, fantastic stuff.
The front three, and we've got some good options on the bench as well. But I think he's probably got the right ones.
Yeah, he has. Yeah,
Marcus Bent.
Go on.
Marcus Bent, who is based. It could have been in every single one of these combined 11s, really, couldn't he?
Yeah, he's at most mix. Yeah.
David Johnson, Mark II. And the aforementioned David McGoldrick as well.
Yeah, you kind of put him in.
But an honourable mention from me for John Stead, who I thought was vastly underrated. But we could also add Connor Salmon.
Yeah, the idea of, to make the game even more weird, we're down to one midfielder, and just as a roll of the dice, we'll throw on Connor Salmon just so that the ball can ricochet around the field a bit more. I love Connor Salmon. He was a walking argument on any forum when he played for the team. They just didn't know what to make of him. Managers loved him. It's Billy Clark as well. That's an option as well. Mick Hill. Jonathan Hunt came up on the list as well. So it's a good team though, and a fascinating midfield.
Daryl, thank you.
Darryl.
Yeah, brilliant stuff as
much.
always. Did we do a Leeds one? I don't think we did. So we'll end the season with a Leeds combined 11.
Yeah, we will do. That could be fun.
I'm trying to. I can't think of. Yeah, well, that's Daryl's job. We'll let Daryl do that.
Get to work on it.
Let's.
There'll be at least one Hunt in there. At least I think Noel Hunt might be. Yeah.
Good shout. Let's do the Q&A. Let's just before we delve into the Twitter questions. And we have quite a good number today. There was 2 questions we got last week, and I'm going to apologise straight away because I can't remember. I think Gabriel Sutton asked us about League One players, and someone else, I think it was a guy called Steve, asked us about comparable relegated teams to Ipswich.
The fate of teams who drop out of the Championship into League One. What happens to them?
So I'm Stephen McCafferty.
Yeah,
got there. There was a thing I retweeted from the guy who's leading the the fantasy Premier League, Steve Jackson at Goal Projection, who has a graph of looking at the correlation of teams relegated from the Championship and their points tallies the next season. And his statistical conclusion is there is a weak correlation between Championship points and the following season League One points total, which I think is a good thing for us, because otherwise I think we'd be panicking a little bit more. But you've delved into this, Harry, and done a little bit of research.
Yeah, the boys in the lab got on the case. There was can I give a quick shout out as well to... There's a TWTG poster who I've known for years. He's one of these people who you become good friends with, who you never meet, as is the way of internet forums. A guy he's based in Australia, called Urban Blue, and he follows the show. He's wonderful, and the biggest Blue Monday shout out we can possibly give you, because he sent me we had a wonderful correspondence about this subject, because he did put a thread together back in December, which did some work, and then I went off and did my own digging to see what we could piece together. Before we get into that, I want to mention one thing he did say, echoing back to what one of Daryl's earlier combined starting 11s.
Okay.
Because I think we gave him a bad half hour when we did the combined QPR starting 11, which had a front pairing of Frank Clark and Alan Brazil, which was reasonable enough until you realised that we completely forgot Chris Kawamia.
Oh, did we?
Yes.
Oh, I can't believe we've done that. I can't believe I've got the shirt behind me.
It goes back to December. So we'll hastily apologise to
Urban Blue.
You've got to put Kawamia in with Alan Brazil, because that would be brilliant. That would be a fun. It wouldn't be a dull attacking pair. The defenders would have sleepless nights. We should have Kieran Dyer and Massimo Luongo in behind them. But moving on, getting back on topic, there is some interesting analysis. But we both came to the same conclusion and it's increased in recent years with the relative disparity in money between League One and the Championship, that you can go back up quite quickly. I've analysed that it's within 3 years, 50% of teams go back up. This is going back to 2004, 2005. So there's a 1 in 2 chance of going back up within 3 years. And but in more recent years, actually 7 have come up out of the last 14 that have dropped down. 7 have come up within the next season, and 5 more managing it the season after. So the other 2 took longer. That's the good news. However, it also needs to be added that looking back over the last 15 years, League One is a waiting room, or more accurately, a departure lounge for teams who drop down from the Championship. Because if just over 50% of teams go up, just under 30% of teams go down again. Oh. And it's no respecter of whether you're a small club or whether you're a badly run club. There's no correlation that way at all either way. So teams, for example, in League, who are back in League One now, but who dropped within 2 years of going down, would include Blackpool, Doncaster, Portsmouth, Scunthorpe, Plymouth, Milton Keynes, Yeovil. They all went down. They all went down within all of those actually went down within 2 years of dropping out of the Championship recently, and it's not a new or old thing. So Yeovil went only 2 seasons ago. Milton Keynes with the season before that. Yeah.
Coventry, Colchester.
Yeah, Coventry went, but they went after about 5 years. So
I was going to call out Coventry for this, because their relegation feels like ours in that Coventry were kind of figuratively swirling around the toilet bowl for a bit. They kept cutting costs, which is why it feels, if you ignore the dysfunction of Sisu as the ownership, they had replaced managers quite a lot, and they'd slowly, all the quality had been sold out and youth players were put in who were decent enough, but it just, the cost cutting eventually caught up with him, and then the Sisu stuff has kind of followed after that. So that was what I kind of recalled back from watching Coventry go down to League One.
It was corrosive, really, wasn't it, in a way? There's two teams, leaving aside the three that went down last year. In the last of the teams that went down in the last 15 years, only two have actually remained consistently in League One, which was Charlton, who went down in 2016, and Peterborough, who went down in 2013. They've remained there. All the others, every other team, apart from the three that just dropped, have all gone out of the league one way or another. So I'm just putting it out there. I'm not suggesting that we're going to get relegated or anything like that, but it pulled me up when I had to look at, particularly after the Preston game, which it did scare me that we had that put in a performance like that. And it's easy to benchmark yourself again against the top teams in League One, but I had a quick look just as a little exercise, because I know a couple of Plymouth fans. I said, well, what do Plymouth look like? Now, they're in a bit of a relegation scrap. They're your kind of mid-table League One outfit. And you've got an interesting group of players there. You've got players like Ryan Taylor up front. He's ex-Rotherham, Bristol, Portsmouth, Oxford. David Fox, he's 35, midfield. He's another one of these gnarly midfielders we were talking about. He played for Norwich back in the day. Antoni Sarcevic, ex-Fleetwood and Shrewsbury. I think he was on her setup. You've got a lot of journeymen on, short contracts. Lloyd Jones, ex-Luton. Ryan Edwards. These are centre-backs, ex-Blackburn, Morecambe. But they've got, for example, Paul Anderson, a former Town player.
Right, okay.
He's a bench option. Joel Grant, who played for Yeovil on the right wing. Jan Songo, he's a centre-back who they're playing him, is ex-Blackburn. He's been played as a holding midfielder. You look at this team like that and you think, well, Freddie Ladapo as well is there. He was ex-Palace, and I think he played for Shrewsbury. In first season there, he came in briefly. And Exeter, for example, of Hiram Boateng, another one of these. We saw him in the League Cup match earlier in the season. And you look at the Preston game, and you look at a squad like Plymouth, and you think to yourself, well, actually, they've got. We may have similar problems to what they have. When we mirror them up against each other, we might have a little bit more quality, but we may not have the same amount of experience. And think about Accrington, think about Exeter. I'm not being a doom merchant here, but what I would say to everybody listening, I would urge everybody during the week, if you've got a quiet moment, sitting on a train, have a look on Transfermarkt, have a look on Wikipedia at some of the mid-table squads, Oxford, Wickham, Bristol Rovers. Just look at some of the teams that are kind of milling around in the middle of the table. Just inhale what they've got. Because be aware, that's what we'll be seeing next week, every week, and mirror that then against what we saw. It was easy to say. It's easy just to look at Preston on the Easter weekend, but possibly look at against how the team that played against Birmingham do against a squad like that as well. So the sense is, to me, we're kind of mid-table League One, possibly upper mid-table League One, and it's down to what happens over the summer.
And this is why the likes of Mick Mills are saying that we need better players. His starters were Judge and Nolan, I think, and that was all. I think we need a busy transfer window.
It'll be fascinating. One last line. I found a great quote from James Fowler, who's the Sunderland assistant manager. He said this about League One. He said, with most teams in League One, there are 3 to 4 real quality players. And on top of that, there is a physicality and an athleticism. But he also said, interestingly, there is a variety of styles. It's easy to assume it's all going to be Lincoln. It's not. You get a variety of different ways of playing. So that won't be different. But the level of quality will be lower, but it will be augmented by athleticism and physicality. May not be a surprise.
I think we'll probably have to come back in the summer and do a bit of analysis on what to expect in League One.
Some early food for thought.
Yeah, indeed. That's good stuff, Harry. Have you got any League One players that you've called out as for Gabriel's question?
The ones, where did I come up with? There's just a couple of names. As I say, where did I go? I went through a whole load of players, and a lot of the kind of the high status, high value players are all low knees from bigger clubs. There was a couple from Peterborough I spotted: Marcus Maddison, Ivan Toney, Jason McCarthy, who's a centre back for Wickham. He caught my eye as well, just looking, because you looked at the numbers, as it were, and then you kind of went and had a look at the forums to see what they say. One other thing, just to go back to the gnarly midfielder motif, we've talked about this streetwise midfielder. Some of the players who've been kind of sort of patrolling around in League One this season include players like Lee Cattermole, Grant Ledbetter, George Thorne, amazingly at Luton, the ex-Derby player.
Wow, yeah.
He's been there. I think he might be on loan. Then you've got players like David Edwards, Dean Marney, Stephen Quinn at Bury, Jay Spearing, and Ahmed Kashi, actually, he's at Oxford. These are all kind of experienced, they're the kind of, not saying we should sign any of those, but that's the kind of player a lot of teams take comfort from having in their midfield, if I can put it like that. Yeah. But they're my three, as I say. I don't know, that's as far as I got. So many players you'd look up, like Cameron Borthwick Jackson, who's having a great time at Scunthorpe, whatever, and you find, nope, he's on loan, doesn't count.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'll call out a couple of Coventry players because it's shameless Coventry plug today, and also kind of. It sounds like there's light at the end of the tunnel for their ground share situation. The EFL vote to possibly expel them has been deferred whilst they put, I think, a bit more of a sturdy plan in place there. Potentially going back to the RICO and dealing with Wasps, which is good. Their centre-back pairing of Jordan Willis, who's the captain, and Dom Hyam as well, and the Coventry team is just hovering outside the playoffs. Probably a bit too much of a stretch for them now. But they've got they've plucked players from academies. From the likes of Reading and I'm trying to think of a few others as well. Derby, I think, as well. Players that have kind of been discarded on the scrap heap and have kind of converted them into their own kind of bright and upcoming players. So Jordan Willis, Dominic Hyam, Connor Chapman up front is another good one. Tom Bayliss, centre midfield. Luke Thomas attacking midfield. It's a really nice kind of. It is cost cutting. It is the kind of the cheap way of doing it. But they develop these players and their academy is great as well. So Jordan Willis. Dominic Hyam, those would be the players that I would keep an eye out for at Coventry. Let's do some questions. We'll start with Matt Makins because it's at what point do we all wake up and it's August 2018 again? Oh, if only, eh? If only.
Season from
Don't
hell.
do it.
Season from hell.
Hopefully, Matt. Hopefully, it's a nasty dream. Tom Dixon, with relegation, can you do a starting lineup for next season with who you think we'll be able to hold on to and who will leave? Maybe we'll do that next week, Tom, actually. Again, apologies for my lack of preparation. If I'd read that question in advance, I probably would have done
but that is a really hard question, actually. I'll just add a chip on that because there are so many imponderables. There are so many imponderables.
Me and Joe have had a go at that, and a few other people have joined in as well on Twitter. So maybe Tom have a butchers on my timeline. I think we've left a few gaps, but the formation, I think I've suggested that maybe I don't think Lambert is going to divert from the one up front, but we just need to get people around him. But we'll maybe come back and have a go at that, or we're chatting with Ben about stuff for the off season, so maybe we'll come back and do that then. Blue Soap, how many season ticket orders do we think will be sold? I'd like to think we breach the 12,000 mark and get that deduction, only because I've just got one myself. And I'd quite like another 10% off. But
I think there is a movement. Definitely, I've spotted it. I know the Southwest group, for example. A lot of members there are who normally would be reticent, and given the distance you've got to travel, 3.5 hour journey to get over there from Bristol and Bath. There are a lot of people out over in our neck of the woods who are buying season tickets who haven't before. So I think it is drawing in new people.
Definitely. Mullet, our mate Mullet. Does Lambert have it in him to challenge Evans and sort this out? We've talked about the need to strengthen and get better quality, particularly in both boxes. Will his record of walking away saying sorry continue, or is this the point where he needs us as much as we need him?
Good question. Really good question. I think Lambert needs us as much as we need him. I think his yearning for a pre-season kind of almost betrays that a little bit. As I say, my hope and prayer is that Evans doesn't use that leverage he feels he might have to squeeze his budget to compromise Lambert's room for manoeuvre. That is a worry, and not just in terms of not signing players, but there's another question. I just hope he doesn't sort of slog off a few assets just to balance the books. Put your get his calculator out. My sense is that given the problems, if things did go horribly wrong, this has been really pessimistic. Let's hope we're storming along in October. But if things do go sour, my hope would be that the fans wouldn't turn on Lambert, even though the football hasn't improved.
No, we talked about that in the flagship show, and there was, I think Steve Moore asked the question about has Evans kind of managed to escape again? With people turning on Lambert a little bit on Twitter this week. I think patience and for the on-field stuff. It feels like Evans maybe got away with it again. He's one favoured by the season tickets pricing, I think, and the apology maybe. But I think there's only so many managers that can fail under Evans' tenure or ownership before the blame should point to him. Definitely,
there is one common factor in the last 10 years.
There is, Benjamin Aurier. In the grand scheme of things, we've kind of alluded to this point as well, but I don't think we've ever really discussed it. In the grand scheme of things, could relegation prove to be a blessing in disguise for the football club? Do you subscribe to the view that this has been a long time coming? Actually, the reset button needs to be pressed, and we can make a good fist of it and bounce back and be stronger for it. Blessing in disguise, do you think?
I don't know what you reckon, Rich. I think I normally would 99 times out of 100 you say relegation is never good. It's easier to stay up than go up. But given how poor this side is, I think it's safer to rebuild in League One. I really do. Yeah. We're just being so outclassed at the moment. We need to go down and just literally dismantle the thing and put it back together again.
I agree with that, and I wonder
so far behind.
And I wonder to what extent the fact that relegation has been on the cards for so long, we haven't kind of flattered to deceive, or we haven't had a bit of a rally, got ourselves near safety, and then kind of it's been taken away from us. We have been crap for a while, and no one should dismiss that fact. So we should be of no surprise that we need to improve. And if we'd stayed up in the Championship, I think we would have been definite favourites to go down anyway. Maybe it is the blessing in disguise. I don't think Benjamin goes as far as saying blessing in disguise because we'll bounce straight back up. I do feel it increasingly likely that we might, if we have a good season, finish in the playoffs, and then it's a bit of a lottery. It might take us a season or two to come back, but maybe it is a blessing in disguise. Hopefully it is. Bloody hell, I hope it is. Tim Pashley, I'll start with the second half of his question, Harry, given it's the only food-related question we have this week. Eggs, poached, fried or scrambled for breakfast?
Poached.
Agreed. Good. Consensus. Love that. Tim as well. No given recent performances, can we, on Saturday, keep it under 4 goals or play like second half versus Brum?
It's I think it'll be related to the mood at Bramall Lane. We touched on this earlier. They could relax at 3-0. They could relax at 3-0. That sounds awful. I'm just saying that. They could relax at 3-0. There's almost you're assuming that after an hour it'll be 3-0 and then the party will start. It depends if, I joked, I said, all season, if teams have either needed a result or needed to end a poor sequence, along come Ipswich. I think the mood would be, it could be they're 2-0 up to whatever, 3-0 up, and they know Leeds aren't going to score 14. They're not going. I think the Leeds have got to play Villa, I think, still.
Sunday.
So it could be a playoff final rehearsal that. Anyway, but so in which case then they could relax, and then it becomes a non-contact sport, and Billy Sharp comes on, whatever, they start to wheel out a few old favourites.
Harlem Globetrotters.
Harlem Globetrotters, and just knock it all around, and we can all go home happy. And they finish the game with all the players clustered near the tunnel, ready for the full-time whistle, so that everybody can just get off the field before the crowd invasion.
Good point.
We could see, but anyway.
Alistair Olimar is also, I think, endorsing poached eggs. Just so everyone knows. Arthur Pickthorne, how much of a weapon could Gwion Edwards be next season? Hasn't looked out of his depth in the Championship, so should have a big role to play. Also, do you think it would be remotely possible to sign Daryl Murphy? I think it might be remotely possible. Whether he would or not is another thing. I think wages, as Blue Soap has chipped in and said. Thoughts on Gwion Edwards? I think someone asked me whether we had any saleable assets. Or whether, I think it was Daryl, whether Gwion might be sold whether someone might come in for Gwion Edwards. I'm not so sure, but thoughts on whether he could be an important player for next season?
Well, given our problems out wide, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see if he can develop some consistency and work on his partnership with either Judge or whoever we get up front. I think that's the key. The finisher that we get in whatever new striker we have or whoever it might be, to give him the time and space to flourish. It's what we talked about earlier, that wide balance. I felt he's been inconsistent this season. There were other problems defensively as well, but I think as if he's got more of an attacking side to his game in League One, he could well flourish. I would hope so. I am yet to be convinced, but but it comes down as much to his partnerships with whoever we're playing. The two central attacking players will be, because just to get that balance working.
I think we've definitely. It feels like he's very much a confidence player as well. I think that's something that appears to have.
That's really true.
On the kind of similar theme of wide players, simple question, Harry, from Mark Jupp. Danny Rowe, discuss.
He's an open book to me. He wasn't. I didn't think he was up to it under Mick. I saw him playing against Forest particularly, where I felt he struggled with the role. But then Mick never used wingers as an attacking sense. He always used them to double up on attacking fullbacks rather than as out and out wingers. And from looking at what Lincoln fans were saying, he seems to be doing well up front as an alternative to Matt Reid. I'd want to have a proper look at him in pre-season, definitely. He seems to be... John Akinde is the other striker that Lincoln have been playing with, and they've talked about him being very potent in attack with Rowe playing off Akinde. But the problem is we don't need another player in the middle. They've praised his tight control in and around the box. He's got a very good system. He fits in with their system really well. One of them rather outrageously said he's the striker we need to sign before we miss out again, a la Vardy, which was quite a
that's a slight endorsement.
Maybe we should have a look at him in pre-season then. But whether he have we got enough of these? This is the question. If he has become more of a central player, I think we need wingers. We need people out on the flanks who can stretch defenses and who can give the central players options to play out to and give the fullbacks an attacking dimension so that they're not being hammered in every game. That's what we need. So
maybe
I don't know.
His game has evolved because he's a wide player when he came to us. And maybe he's learned that kind of that inside forward kind of position. Maybe we need a blend of both of those things, because we do need to get players around the strikers. And if the striker's isolated and Rowe is happy to kind of move in a little bit, I don't know.
I just have a fear we have enough inside forwards at the moment. You've got him and Judge and Dazelle and Bishop. Let's play them all in together and wear to the opposition out. That's
we'll do the Swansea floating thing, but they'll all be in the middle, won't they? Yeah,
exactly. And they're all kind of just weird, just in some sort of amorphous kind of strange dance. Yes.
Let's continue. A quick shout out for because he's tweeted. I don't think he's tweeted a question apart from to suggest that we get the guy from Burton who Ben did a preview show with in last season to get back on the show. Ben Southgate, who I went to primary school with. I had one of these moments where someone from Twitter said, "Are you so and so from so and so?" And this guy lives in Australia now, in Sydney. We went to primary school together some over 20 years ago, over 25 years ago. I'm forgetting how old I am. Bloody hell, almost 30 years. Bloody hell, I'm so old. Anyway, Joe Fairs, you mentioned this at the start. With odds available for us to win on Saturday at 20-1, have we ever been such underdogs for a league game? And are these odds generous or fair?
I looked it up. I couldn't find anything stronger than that. I think they're. God, I don't know. It's you might say that they're. If we did, no, what am I saying? If we did score an early goal, but what am I saying? It's
when we score an early goal. No, sorry, that's not what you mean.
It's not. It's what a season it's been. We're having this. It feels like a very surreal conversation. This, Rich, it really, really does. You find yourself talking very calmly, but when Sheffield United get to 3, they'll ease off. What is going on here?
What would Vince say, Harry? What would Vince say?
Vince.
How dare you accept mediocrity?
Vince, exactly. He'd say you play with passion, you play with pride, you go out on the front foot, you're professional, you're loyal to your fans. You should. I can hear him now in my head. He'd be full, Forza Italia, Forza Napoli, but then Forza. He says Forza Azzurri with the Ipswich of the Blues. And he would say that you've got to go out. You have a duty to your fans and a duty to the heritage of the club, not to roll over and let them and let Sheffield United stuff us. But looking at the quality, possibly 20-1 is about right, actually. But given everything else and given the sense of belief that they have in Sheffield United. They're not going to turn up and think it's won. Wilder isn't that type of manager. He won't let them go out thinking that the game is already won. They will be professional about it.
Well, they haven't beaten us so far this season, Harry, so you never know. But I think I replied to Joe on the Blue Monday WhatsApp group. I've come to understand that the bookies generally know their stuff.
They do,
because they called our season out, actually, didn't they, fairly early doors.
Yes,
Joe also has asked if we can plug the under 18s fixture on Saturday, so I'll do that now. They face Sheffield Wednesday away in their playoff semi-final at Hillsborough.
Oh great.
On Saturday morning, 11 a.m. kickoff. So if you're travelling up for Sheffield United in the afternoon, because that's a 5:15 game.
It's a 5:15 game, so you could do one, have an afternoon, bit
walk
of lunch,
around
whatever.
Sheffield. It's a lovely city.
Yeah.
And as Joe says, it'd be brilliant for the young players if there's Ipswich fans, friendly faces, who are going to the Sheffield United game, or even not. As we joked about in the flagship show, you've got a good chance of seeing Ipswich win in Sheffield on Saturday if you head to Hillsborough, 11 a.m. kickoff. If you can make that would be brilliant. So try and go and give the guys your support. I'm sure that would be appreciated. Final questions. Given Sheffield United can still catch them, this is FPL Tractor. Should we pick crazy, bluey, various fans and let them have the win? I don't think the sad thing is I don't think we need to do that, FPL Tractor. That's the disappointing thing. But I'm quite happy to play right back.
Yeah. I wrote down here. I said I wonder what Larson Toure is doing these days. I don't know. see who else we can dig out. The Portman Cup. We should have the Portman Cup during the week, and whoever wins the Portman Cup gets to play Sheffield United. That might work. Oh dear. The Portman Cup is the game played between the two sets of fans.
Yes,
that's. I was just thinking maybe do it that way. And the prize is a day out at Bramall Lane, and you're closer
live
to
on
the action.
Sky.
You're closer to the action than you ever thought you would be.
Yes. Bring your boots. I should have ended with that one really, but let's end with Sully. Dennis Sullivan. How concerned should we? This is a serious question. How concerned should we be with bargain hunters coming in for our young players this summer? How quickly do you think Lambert will either release players he deems surplus to requirements and sign recruits for the next campaign? The hope from Sully is most of this business is done before pre-season. I think we'd all echo that point. I think we need to learn the mistakes from last season and not be doing dealings right up until the first game of the season and actually up to the end of the window. Thoughts about young players that might be poached?
It is a worry. It's a concern given Evans's judgment, his track record of selling assets, and he does have I fear he may have a reflex to bank cash rather than play it long term with some of the developing talent. I've got an amber light on that, but I fear if he does, the wrath that he could, incur from fans. It's possibly just me not trusting Evans at the moment, but given
why would you?
Given 10 years of what we've seen, but let's wait and see what he does. I hope to God he doesn't leave it, because we have got some Barkins who could be hunted, and this does happen. I've seen teams who've gone up before who've this team. Oxford built a really good team a few years ago, and their players get cherry picked. What's it? The lead striker whose name has gone completely. Kimar Roof. Players like that. That sort of thing happens in League One, and we are more vulnerable to having not just Premier League teams, but we've got a whole heap of Championship teams now going to be looking over our shoulder. But that comes down to how trustworthy our owner is. So we'll have to wait and see on that. As far as the question about augmenting and changing the squad and who'll go quickly, that is linked to the question earlier about what's trying to shape up a starting 11 for next year. I think players will be moved on pronto, as there are so many. The one confidence thing we have got thing that gives us confidence, I should say, is the fact that in January we moved swiftly in the transfer market. Yep. It was planned. We couldn't get the quality. We were fighting a losing battle, but we did move swiftly on it. And I think Lambert is champing at the bit on this.
Yeah, Stuart Taylor, who did the press conference today, has suggested that the plans are already in place there. Yeah. They're looking further afield. And I think in terms of the players out of contract, I think this is where sentimentality needs to go out the window. I think maybe before it's kind of, we'll give them another year. When it comes to our players that have come through the academy, I can kind of understand that. But, we were talking about Grant Ward on the flagship show, and it's just not worked out for him here. The injury's sad, and we need to do right by him and get him up to fitness and help him get another club. But we shouldn't be making decisions on sentimentality or hoping for the best. We need players that could be playing 40 games a season, are ready to go for it in League One, and are reliable. And Adeyemi's another one. I think we probably need to move on a little bit as well.
There's an echo of what Sheffield United did. You don't just take players on out of sentiment or out of or out of some kind-heartedness. You look at the model of football you want to play and you build your team around that. That's what Chris Wilder did, and we can see on Saturday evening the fruits of 3 years of really good work doing that, and that's what we should be looking to do. Look at how they've thought it through, and follow that.
And using our budgets, which are going to be limited, let's be honest, League One, properly, rather than padding out the squad with players on fairly chunky wages, who could actually, that money could be spent elsewhere.
So many teams have seen us coming. Good
stuff. It's a shame we didn't end on FPL Tractor's more upbeat question.
The Portman Cup.
But it's a Portman Cup.
It's like it's a playoff. It's a championship playoff or a League One playoff final. You get to play a championship game at the end of it. Oh, it'd be wonderful.
Money can't buy.
You'd have players scoring own goals. You wouldn't want to go out there.
You could be the person that stops David McGoldrick scoring a goal. Yes. Nightmares the night before.
The player the ball hits as David McGoldrick's shot screams into the top of the net.
Exactly right. Oh, you could be the one who picks the ball out of the net 5 times. Yeah, bloody hell. I've really enjoyed today's episode, Harry. Even though there's a bit of gallows humour, and certainly we're not looking forward to the prospect of Sheffield United. I've enjoyed it nonetheless. Thank you for, as always, your research, particularly on the League One stuff. And I think more of that to follow, perhaps. And we'll have to think about how we can sign off on a bit more of a positive for Leeds next week as well. Before we go, tell us about blogs and Twitters and all that kind of stuff.
The preview notes will be up on TWTD Friday lunchtime, and they can be found on @HarryFromBath.
Brilliant stuff. You can find me at Ipsrich, and our channel at Blue Monday ITFC. Ben, I think, will be making a welcome reappearance for the flagship show, and I think it's me and Dave. I think I'm making another appearance. I'm getting he's getting his money worth out of me this week. I think there's a This Week in ITFC History as well coming out as well, so plenty of content. We're also planning for stuff for the summer as well, chats about season reviews, and we've got a nice little idea, I think, Harry and I, for something as well, so we'll keep people posted. We might be able to divulge a bit more about that next week, but really enjoyed that, Harry. Thanks again as always. And
cheers, Rich. Thanks everyone for listening. Have a great weekend.